We're recording.
Thank you, sir. Um, I could feel information being coming together in kind of a download from heart all day today. And I feel happy because the download got finished just before we started today, this class. And part of what I was asking for is we have set out in the classes before this, I set out clusters of information. Like the first time we had the 25 chakras, and then we talked about the 5 energy bodies, and then we talked about the gemstones that bring in the new energies and how to do that a little bit. We talked about the jewel body and traveling, got a beginning of what the jewel body does, and then we talked about the core body. And then we talked about objects, and we talked about money first because money is a life form that connects all the objects together, because it's through money that we can acquire other objects, in many places on our planet that don't barter or do other things. So then I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to do? I need to still talk about how they were bigger issues, how we do psychic readings now, that objects are as important as they are today. I was extremely gifted as I'd say in my 30s and on, with being psychic, and I don't think I knew it because I didn't have that many people reflecting back to me. I could find dead bodies. I worked with missing children of Minnesota, so if some child was abducted, I could find that child, psychically. I'd take some of the children's garments or toys and tune into that frequency, put a map of, the world or the country or the county or wherever it seemed likely, and feel where that child was. And then as soon as I felt where the child was, then I constructed a vision of the buildings and the car that the people were driving, the color of the car. So I was really good at that kind of thing. And I didn't tell too many people. I was being a psychotherapist back in those days and working with seriously and persistently mentally ill adults. And it wasn't really till 1991 when we brought in 3 heart balancing, and a lot had happened in between that I was welcoming this new energy. And I got into the 3 hearts or 3 energy centers, and really found out that it had some connections with some shamans, people I knew were working with in Peru, that talk about 3, they don't call them hearts, but areas. And I then had a memory of being one of the shaman's great-great-grandfather, so I'm very connected to that. So the third eye, it was the first heart, and that connected, reminding you of 3 heart balancing. That included what we used to call the crown chakra, now we call heaven's mysteries, in the throat. And then the physical heart was the second heart. That's the physical heart, the throat, and the solar plexus. And then the will heart is the sacral chakra. The will center is there, and then there's the root and the solar plexus around it. The will heart's the one that was not really opened until 1992. So if we want to play with percentages, let's say that my spirit heart was open 80% because of how accurate I was. Let's say my physical heart was open, we'll be generous, we'll say 50%. The physical heart opening, I think, historically came when Buddha and Christ came to the planet, those avatars. And then the bottom heart just opened. So let's say the bottom heart's opened, well, again, let's be generous, let's say 20%. You got to have some life force going even in those bottom chakras, or you're not going to live in the body. So when we brought in 3 heart balancing, it really didn't become 80%, 80%, 80%, all three hearts. The bottom heart, which is the foundation, let's say it was 20%, that was 20%. My physical heart was 20%, and the third eye was 20%. So when I brought this energy in, it was like, who turned off the lights? Wow. You know, I had zippity doo-dah psychic abilities. And the only thing that was important was opening up the will heart and my emotional life, you know, and what I was emotional about. And right away, they were talking to me about soulmates and twin souls, and they were talking to me about past lives, things that I had never much cared about, really. When I did my therapy, I used a lot of transactional analysis, and there was a school in transactional analysis called the Cathexis School, and it was all about people changing their parent messages that they'd gotten as child, and changing their child experience, you know, and becoming and incorporating some new parent. And there's almost not very much transactional analysis going on today. I think because we opened up the will heart, but also because so much of the jargon that those people used has been incorporated in our language, has been incorporated in our culture. Everybody knows what strokes are, and if you say, what's your life script, people get an idea of what that means. They know what games, you're playing games with me, you know. You can still download Eric Burns', you know, famous book, Games People Play. It's for free on the internet. You know, so it's not that some people don't have things to learn from that, but that's old technology that, you know, we're not using anymore. And so I really slowly opened up all three hearts, and I'm still not sure I could find I came close to finding a dead body, maybe 2 years ago. There was a woman missing in Thief River Falls, and she had, they thought, driven her convertible, left the town or the building, and of course she was an adult, so they really didn't want to put a missing person out on her, and she was kind of a delinquent kind of person in the family, used drugs. And I did the map thing that I talked about, and I thought she was in a river, you know, and the car was covered, and I thought I knew exactly where she was, and I didn't know exactly where she was. She was in the river, and they drained they opened the dam so that the river would be shallow, and her car appeared, but not where I said, you know. And in the before 1992, it would have been right where I said. So that's a couple years ago. I have some of that back, I guess, but I haven't really tried too much of that. So how do you, when the will is open, getting a psychic reading or getting some information is entirely different than it was before three heart balancing. Before three heart balancing, people listen to their guides. They might get information from dead people. They might get directly information from God or the Christ energy, that who knows. And objects were not as important as they are now. People's physical bodies weren't as important as they are now. You know, we started with the chakras. I am hoping that you are memorized the 25 chakras, because that is your driver's manual, your owner's manual for your body. And I hope you know what gemstones bring in the new energies. That's a big, important tool for you. I hope you remember what your 5 energy bodies are, and you know, we're going to develop more and more information and skills about how to use the core body and the jewel body, the new ones. But all those are pieces of what we're going to use to create that practical magic. And you get into, why do we have a class like Practical Magic? Why do we want to affect how we manifest things? I would say it would be to avoid pain and suffering, you know, and a lot of pain and suffering has been our experience in the planet, in the world. And so I was trying to think, okay, Cindy, who's not here tonight, but she may be listening to this, she has not taken my classes. So she doesn't know about the 7 ways people died that we studied back in those classes. Uh, just to briefly remind you, everybody's died of crucifixion, drowning, starvation, torture, burning, castration, choking. So when somebody has a disease or a problem, we're vibrating out their memories in their physical cells of their death in a past life. It can be a real past life. It can be an ancestral, from your ancestral DNA, or it can be some threat you've had real or imagined in this life. In fact, you used to be able to end up putting death memories into your body by, say, watching too many movies where people have drowned and you're very emotional about that. Or you might get attracted to watching those movies because you did drown a lot of times. It's hard to say whether the cart's before the horse, but we had to start incorporating emotions, and the emotions are extremely dense energy. So when you're starting to open something up, you want to reach for the energy that is dense and find a way to vibrate it. And we've found things like acupuncture over the years, and essential oils and music and drumming and all kinds of ways. But vibrating and awakening our internal healer, now that's a 3 heart balancing thing. And then having all kinds of ways that we can be in charge and powerful over our internal healer, that's a 3 heart balancing thing. Having our body hold on to a problem until it's really healed, that's a 3 heart balancing thing. Sometimes I wish it would just let go of the problem, let the person live a happier life for meanwhile, but sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And what we have figured out is important. We've got the energy bodies, we got the gemstones, we got the chakras, we got all the objects that are around us to help us. And part of what we have to think about when we're feeling emotions or pain is, what time is it? In what I mean when I say what time it is this something that is only happening to me because of right here, right now, there's a stimulus and this is my response, this emotion, this grief or rage or whatever the heavy emotion is? Or is this a memory? And if it's a memory, is it this lifetime's memory? Did something bad happen to me at a certain age? Or is it the past lifetimes? Now you can see how complex that would get. So when we teach healing, we tell people don't dig for all that, that somebody can vibrate out any memory of their body without having to know the story. And so that's a good thing, because then I don't have to turn anybody I'm training into being a psychic. They don't have to try to figure out what somebody's really feeling. And, I tell them a little speech I give people who want me to tell them what I'm seeing, because usually if I tell someone what I'm seeing is I'm slowing down the bit stream of information flowing out of their body from a simple healing. And you don't want to slow anybody down. I don't want to decide that somebody having a choking body scar tissue map was because they were guillotined in the French Revolution, because they maybe were guillotined. And if they were, that would certainly be helpful. But I don't want to limit what I'm vibrating out to just one choking experience. I want to vibrate every possible choking memory they might have when I'm healing them. So it's always been about expanding. The thing about our will, though, is that our will heart wants to know who we are and what has happened to us, what kind of past lives we've had. there's a whole group of people that I've called in my classes the burn, rape, and pillage group. And that's the people that are the burp group. They like to burn, rape, and pillage, and every lifetime that's what they did to the rest of us. And the rest of us learned to be victims of the burn, rape, and pillage group. And of course, I did muscle test, and I know that people taking this class were not part of the burn, rape, and pillage group. Now, that doesn't say none of us have murdered people. Certainly we've murdered people, self-defense. And I'm not saying I didn't murder someone in a hateful passion some lifetime. I probably did. But those things, again, don't matter when it comes to you getting a physical healing, but they matter when you're evolving, because you start to, everything was chaos before 1992. Many, one body could contain anywhere from 2 to 10 to 15 different souls. And so one of the things you can know when you're searching for your past life is that you knew who Jesus was, you knew who Buddha was, and you were around during World War II because all the souls were present, because those are huge partnership memories, group memories. And so there is a way that you can ask your core body to become one with your physical body, and then you focus again on the timeline that you want to be in and feel where you were and who you were, so I thought we could practice some of that. Not now, but that's another thing. So the timeline we're going to go over in a minute after I finish my little overview here. But what I didn't know was my vehicle. If I am going to, what vehicle am I going to use to juggle these pockets of information we have about how our new energy body works? How am I going to navigate that? And one of the things that I dug and really came up to knowing just a little less than an hour ago, actually, is that the fungus, the life form, the mycelium, which are it's not like roots of a tree, but they're spores that cover the whole earth. The mycelium are really the largest life form on the planet, and they are closer to human beings than any other life form, than any animal or vegetable or mineral or plants or anything. The mycelium are really something. And I had Clyde send you a movie that Nimi Singh sent me, and I'm not sure where the movie originates from, but it talks about Paul Stamos's work. And he has done some wonderful pioneering work with how fungus can save the planet, fungi can save the planet. And it's a beautiful visual experience just seeing the movie and watching all these fungus open up and grow in all the different shapes and sizes and colors. If you like pretty things, you're going to like that. And so the fungus, like every time all the fungus knows where I am because they feel me walking on the earth, and they're just an inch or two below the earth's surface often. And then the fungus also have a huge communication pattern. They communicate throughout miles and miles and miles. And there's all kinds of powerful, there are people who think that the wisest life form on the planet might be the mycelium, the fungus. And what Hart offered me is that we could use the fungus to navigate what to do next to open ourselves up. In the past, I taught a class where we talked about who we were as a soul, and that's old history. There's some people that are angels and some people that were Sophins and some people that are ancient ones, and they had all these names and everything. But since we have the miracle tube, all souls are essentially the same. And we were mixed with our soulmate and our twin soul. We had 4 people that we were mixed with. And if we didn't know who those 4 people were, we always had a broken heart of some kind that wasn't very good. And so it was important to know who those people were. And the bad thing about those people is that their energy field was mixed with ours, so that if I had a bad day, I could guarantee that 3 other people whose bodies, energy bodies, were mixed with mine would also have a bad day. And if one of us, if we all lived in 4 corners of the world, we'd have bad feelings and fears and pains, physical pains, and not know why that happened to us or where it came from. So it was very chaotic, the way the energy was throughout the planet. And that's because the will is the foundation that organizes everything. So now that we've had the will open since 1992, slowly expanding, we have organization. That's why we've got portals and dimensions, and we're learning more and more ways to affect how we have influence coming to us. Now, because there's been so much cruelty and meanness, I would say before 3 heart balancing, they say love makes the world go round. Actually, I think it was hatred that made the world go round. People, just in terms of sheer numbers, there were more people that were mean to each other than that are nice to each other. And we could feel love. I think those of us in this class have felt love, but the burn, rape, and pillage people really didn't feel love. They kind of mistook power for love. And I didn't think of evil as a concept like religious people think of it, but it does mean that the energy is very, very contracted and very dense. So one of the things that I've used to, when I'm healing people and when I'm paid attention to my own process, is how much pain and suffering am I feeling. That shows that there's a denseness going on in my body, and I want to vibrate that out. I want to change that. So practical magic is a way of changing that. Now, knowing that the will wants to open all the time and wants to vibrate out all these memories of death, wherever they come from, uh, means that I have to pay attention to my pain and suffering, but not all my pain and suffering has to go on and on until it's healed. Sometimes, well, it's like we get habitually, we feel things out of habit. I had this terrible father. When he screams at me, then I felt terrified, and then we feel terrified every time somebody uh, screams at me. I then you that just becomes a habit. And then in the past, we always thought we needed therapy, or we needed some kind of, but we do need empathy, and that's what 3 heart balancing provides. And the earth provides empathy, healing us. So actually, one of the things to ask yourself when you're feeling bad, any kind of pain, is this a memory? Is this something that I need to process? Do I need to feel this to grow? And I think 9 times out of 10, it's not. You don't need to feel it to grow. And you could just say to heart, I'm going to let this go. And just deciding to let it go is enough. So you can create all kinds of peaceful waters in yourself just by asking if the emotion you're feeling or the pain you're feeling is a memory. And even if it is a memory, go ahead and take the aspirin, because what you're doing is you're shifting your whole existence from knowing you're alive based on pain and suffering to knowing you're alive based on joy, passion, sweetness, sweet, gracious help you receive. Um, Up to now in our world, if there was a pendulum swinging, it always swung toward evil. That was it. Now the pendulum's swinging toward good. And we are just beginning to expand loving, ideas. And these, the 12 stones that we shared, that's a big change, just to imagine that love generates strength. It's not just a feeling, it's actually powerful in ways that love has never been powerful before. Mm-hmm. So aligning myself with the fungus to help me find what denseness in my field needs to be vibrated out is a great help. What we used to say is, to heal our physical bodies, we need to know what past life we had been in just before this lifetime, because those past life memories got put on what was called the etheric template. That was a pattern in our etheric body that presented itself when we got born, and then that etheric body would make our physical body, if we died in a car crash, would make us get arthritis throughout our body, like mimicking that crash, for example. We also needed to know, we also had what were called core story, and that was a past life where every bad thing that could possibly happen to us happened to us, and every good thing that could possibly happen to us happened to us. So people would find out about their core stories, and then they could move the major themes of those energies and not have to go through every single past life. Well, we shifted out of needing that. If I was teaching practical magic to you last year, I would say, okay, everybody needs to know their core story. Everybody needs to know what lifetime you had before that. And we're going to vibrate that stuff out as fast as we can. But I don't care. Right now, we're all one. And that oneness that you feel in the 17th chakra is also the same oneness you feel in the foundation chakra, the foundation which connects us with the heart of the earth. So we're evolving with the earth, and the earth is helping us, and the moon is helping us, and all of those partnerships that are in the super strength portal are helping us. So what the fungus is one of those partners that's been helping us all along. But what they were suggesting to me was that we become one with the fungus. And so the best way I know to do that is by portal sailing. And I thought, I don't think I have enough time tonight to portal sail to be one with the fungus for this class, because I just gave you an overview of some concepts that I want to really make sure you understand all your little piles and how they interact. And I have to still talk to you about the timeline and things. But Clyde and I are going to do another Zoom class 2 days from now, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. I'm hoping you can come. I'm going to invite a couple people who are not in the class, who've seen this wonderful fungus movie, which Clyde sent you the video, so I'd like you to watch it before, if you decide to become one with a fungus, before you come on Wednesday. And then you'll get a sense of how much power the fungus has, and then you'll get a sense of who you'll be in partnership and what some of the advantages would be. And I didn't think it will be really a class that we would just do a portal sail. We'll probably introduce ourselves to each other a little bit, and then when we'll say goodbye. If somebody has another suggestion, we might do that, but I'm not planning on it. So I'm going to take a breath here and ask for your reaction. It looks like there's just Laura, Nettie, and Claudia. Or did Nettie go already? Yeah, she called me earlier. She's got a flight at the crack of dawn tomorrow, so she told me she would just listen to the, introduction. So we'll just find out from you two. Except Laura, I don't know if we can hear you. You might just find out. We'll have a conversation, Claudia.
Okay.
And then Clyde can email people and tell them, the people that aren't here, and tell them what we're doing.
And when did you email the link for the mycelium
I
movie?
actually haven't mailed it out to you yet. You'll
Oh, okay.
give it after. Well,
Yeah, I just thought maybe
yeah.
I missed it because I
No.
didn't see anything like that. But well, this is so much rich and good information, and so much of it is new to
Yeah.
me, Jaentra. And you know, I was able to take only one class, 3-heart balancing class with you so many years ago, before I moved away from the Twin Cities again. And I don't even know, you know, it's like I'm surprised that when I got the initial email, I just felt this, oh, I have to do this. and I didn't even question it. And I am fascinated by the systems and the orderliness and the progression and the shifts and changes and evolution that appears to be going on around me without my conscious awareness. And I work with energy, and I have for 30 years, you know,
Yeah.
so the concept is not new to me. But I'm fascinated, and I have more questions than I have answers, you know, which is always a fun place to be. But I also noticed the 2 times that we portal sailed, I had so much pressure build up in my head.
Like a headache kind of pressure?
Like high blood pressure kind of pressure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after the last one, and I love the experience. I was, enjoying doing it. But afterwards, it was like, oh my God, my blood pressure must have been, maybe it was affected, maybe it wasn't. I didn't check it out. But
I was just going to ask you that.
yeah, well, I didn't have a functioning cuff, but it just felt like it. And so it took me half the night to kind of come back to myself and have a comfort level again in my body. So I was going to ask you that in an email, ask that question, like, well, what was that? Or do you have any, suggestions for me?
I don't have any
that?
suggestions. I've never heard anyone say that before.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not high blood pressure. I wish you had a cuff in a way. I don't believe you're in danger from portals.
No, I don't either. It was just a curious, I just felt like, oh, wow, things have expanded so much. I'm expanding beyond the confines of my own skull here. But it happened both times, more acutely the last time. So I just thought, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. And I need to be paying more attention, or I'm missing something. But I'm not afraid to try it again in the future. But I am curious,
Wish I had more. Well, I'm glad I don't have a bad experience, but I don't have an experience with someone saying that. I think in general, I know people feel very calm and peaceful.
Yes, I felt that.
Like their energy field's been thoroughly messed with in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know more than that. I'm thinking I want to explain the timeline business to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we can do is maybe we can answer some of your questions, and we'll just assume the people who aren't here who might listen later can, benefit from that too.
Sure. Take this off.
If you imagine a timeline that starts with your birth as a soul, that timeline will make that 3,000 years. So it's, we're going to make time linear. And when time is in the spirit world, it's not linear. It's objects that make time linear. So half of the people who are souls were born in spirit. And so God and Goddess, and there was a hierarchy, just like there is so many in so many parts of the world today. Some people have more power than other people, that kind of thing. And half the people were born in body on the earth and the moon. And those people did not have a hierarchy. Everybody was more or less even together. There wasn't one that more people that were powerful than other people. What happened with the hierarchy group in spirit is that they were damaged, and their will started to be squashed in spirit. And the earth, they knew who was damaging them, though, because they had that hierarchy, and the more powerful, might makes right, the more powerful ones did mean things to the other ones. And again, I don't think that story's important. In the earth people that were connected to the earth, they were damaged in a way that terrorists damage, where everything was secret. It's like, say you would know who your soulmate was, and then you'd take a nap and you'd wake up and not know who your soulmate was. It'd be like some consciousness stole that from you. And then your soulmate would say, I'm so-and-so to you. No, you're not. So people it was a different way. So there was those two kinds of groups that have really inhabited the earth all these millenniums that we've been here. So the first 3,000 years, we were interacting with half of them. And then there was a war in heaven, and God and Goddess fought, and then Goddess was thrown out of heaven into the earth. And when she incarnated on the earth, the thing about God and Goddess is they're not like souls. They have aspects of every soul is part of their being. She landed here incarnated in 6 human bodies. And she immediately carted off part of the earth to be her place, which is what a lot of mythologies talk about as Eden, and talk about that deal. And people who died in the war in heaven, all the people from heaven, or whatever you want to call that thing, when they incarnated on earth, they either had enough of themselves to be together, or they came as animals. So back in those times, there was 10,000 years of what's called ancient times, or the first age of the earth. If you want to Google the first age of the earth, we're talking about ancient times. That the earth was one landform, called Pangea. And animals could talk. People, if they weren't too damaged, could fly. There was shape-shifting. There was a lot of power. When people died, you could raise them from the dead, and they would remember that you just raised them and remember who they were before you raised them. So you could have a person maintaining a body for, say, 10,000 years. That's how long that was. So you would have them be one person. Part of where we get Cartoon Network is those memories. Those are memories of ancient times, where the Roadrunner gets killed and then pops right back up, and all that silliness. And we're so entertained because none of our fictional stories are nothing more than memories of things that have happened to us. During ancient times, the evil one, which was what we call the person, the being in different forms that came to hurt the will, there was always the good versus evil thing. Like sometimes the evil one might be a fog that you breathe in and you die, or sometimes the evil one might be in the form of a monster or a vampire or something you've seen in a horror movie. But we had basically matriarchal kind of system. And there's some really wonderful stories of times good overcome to evil. There are 88 constellations in the sky, and every time good triumphed over evil, it changed the gravitational field, so stars were added. Now we could think that's really wonderful, but the truth is we were more damaged as time went on. You know, the gravitational field was more damaged and more damaged. So ancient times was really the last time that we could fly or shapeshift, or unless we had other kinds of special powers. At the end of ancient times was a big bang, and everything was decimated. All the planets were decimated. The earth was everything. Nobody could live on the planet at all, and so everybody lived in spirit. And there were all kinds of spirit places. There was party rooms. There was a place where everybody was crucified. There was being in the face of God. There was a sea of souls. Robin Williams starred in a movie, What Dreams May Come. Boy, he did a really good job in that movie of showing different aspects of the astral plane. And we lived on the astral plane millions and billions of years, however long it took the earth to evolve and become the earth that could sustain human life. And so we came back, and then for thousands of years, and I don't really even know how many thousands, we didn't have recorded history, but we had stories. That's why Plato talks about, when Plato's talking about, oh no, I can't think of it. You know, the under the sea city.
Oh, Atlantis or
Yeah,
Lemuria.
right. He's talking about ancient times. You know, that memory from ancient times. That's when Atlantis was. People could breathe underwater in ancient times, but there are stories of, say, Romulus and Remus founding Rome, and Tristan and Isolde, the famous soulmate couple, lived in ancient times. And a lot of the mythology that, the gods of the Norse or the Greeks or the Romans or the Egyptians were our memories when we incarnated of who lived in ancient times and who could do magical things. And so there was a lot of history that way. And then finally, we started writing some history down. So I think it's been a pretty many years that we don't have a lot recorded. So when you get stuck in a painful place, physically painful or emotionally painful, you want to know what time it is. And when it's a serious pain or persistent pain, I know for sure that it's not just in the here and now, or not just in this lifetime. Even though a lot of bad things happen to me personally in this lifetime, I also know that for most people, if they get in a car accident and their back hurts, and then they start getting healing from their back, whether it's, a brace or chiropractor or healer or whatever way they do it, then often their back will demand more healing and more healing and more healing. And it becomes a bigger problem, because the body will bring on memories from the past for you to heal. So, it's like when your mother dies, if you loved your mother and that was a good thing, that'll also remind you of other people you've loved that died. And so you end up being sad about the whole thing. So that separating those memories can be a really good thing to do when you're emotional, and say, okay, how many more of these do I need to do, and how much more? So you take something that's really dense, and emotions are really dense, and vibrate them out. Now, some emotions that are very contracted happened because the burn, rape, and pillage people tortured you in some way that you don't remember. And it created a denseness that covers up, that if it expanded, it would expand into who knows what, rage, grief, despair, shame, guilt, all of it. And so it's uncomfortable to remember those feelings because it's bad enough it happened to you once and then you get to remember again. Thanks for sharing. It's like, when am I gonna just be happy? It is a constant, I don't want to spend my whole life processing. So the timeline, knowing what time it is also helps to vibrate it out. And then looking through the body and saying, okay, what hurts and where the pain is, and let's vibrate that out. And we had healing classes about how to do that. Now, Clyde and I are going to record some, I redid my classes, foundations, energy interventions, applied healing. Those are the 3 classes instead of level 1 and level 2. We're going to have to probably record that. And then Clyde and I are experimenting with how do you touch someone when you're not allowed to touch someone, so he's obviously allowed to touch me and I'm going to touch him. So I'm going to start doing a class about healing for COVID with you and whoever you're distancing with your partner. So that's another office topic thing. So that knowing what time it is part of how we organize our feelings. And so now we're vibrating out things that we don't have to know our core story. We don't have to know our story just before this lifetime. So having the mycelium help us know what the densest part of our field is will help us heal ourselves faster. Now, one of the things we won't do when we're one with the mycelium is we will not heal anybody else, not the earth, not the moon, not, if you and I were caught in the same lifetime and had the same bad thing happen to us and you relive it, you're reliving it or remembering it, whatever, just for you. And if you've already vibrated out whatever it is, you may not feel any pain or suffering when you remember it. It could be like watching a movie. This is who I am, because we want to know who we are. Okay, I'll stop there and say, now you can start asking me questions.
Thank you. Well, with the timeline, you talked about having that when you identify, is it a memory or is it now?
Right.
That you can decide to not go into the feeling or not go into the pain.
Right.
And in that deciding, is that the same as going through a healing, or is it just the deciding process?
No, the deciding process will cause a healing.
Yeah. Okay. And I in my way of organizing my thoughts around it, it's like choosing to be neutral and experiencing the state of neutrality rather than reacting or responding. And when it's and that's when it was of the past, right? You were speaking of, if this is a memory or if this is something you've lived before or lived through before, you can decide to be done with it.
Yes.
I think was the words that you used.
Yes, you can say, do I have any more to learn from this?
Right.
And you inside you feel like, no, not really.
And if you do have more to learn from it,
it won't go away.
Okay. Just becomes a pop-up experience again and again.
Either that or your body will just drag you there. Your core body is your body that is your emotional archive, your Akashic record. And so your core body wants you to know something, she'll be one with your physical body and make you pay attention.
Okay. So when the pain is happening in the now, as opposed to a memory,
Yes.
what's different? Is the way that one proceed any different?
I think it's easier
Okay.
because you can depend on whatever the symptoms are to be gone.
Okay.
You know, and part of it is the 3 heart balancing. When we're expanding, we always want to expand. You know, the top heart is, I'm the light, we are the light. The light is within us, the light moves throughout us, the light surrounds us, the light protects us, we are the light. And this one is the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated. The bottom one is forgive everybody everything. So in the here and now, I usually start at the bottom one and see if I've got a hold of this in the here and now, because I need to forgive what's happened or whatever. Yeah, so it's a self-exploration process. Those are 3 things that I use for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, about 8 minutes are left.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone about the mycelium the other day too, about being in the woods and among the trees,
Right.
and how there's this network that connects all the trees, is my understanding. And I envision or experience that as a mycelial kind of mat of connectivity. So I'm really interested in learning more about this. You know, I'd like to see the movie and
Oh, that movie is wonderful.
try. Yeah. Yeah.
Visually, wow. I think what I'll do is I'm going to send out a little series of emails about how one of the things I should say before we're done is how important the money pit is. You know, because money is energy, it's a form of love. And often the burn, rape, and pillage people have had control of money in our culture, you know, in our world for thousands and thousands of years. So since money's manifested form of love, when we have money coming our way, then for most of us, it's a flow of new energy that we've opened up. And so one of the things, if you're exploring your past life, is to ask yourself, was I rich or poor? You know, how did money just flow to me throughout my different incarnations? Can I get a feeling for that? You know, whether it's a vision or whatever, you know, not everybody was the Queen of England, but you can still get a sense of whether, like I watched Downton Abbey, and I know there were a lot of lifetimes where I was rich, you know, and had people waiting on me. But I also know there were a lot of lifetimes where I was the maid, you know, waiting on a lot of people, because I feel at home in both places. So sometimes it's just a matter of how comfortable you are and can you sense something. But money is such an important object to see how we are, you know, how we're loved. And we have to, it's part of somebody has to bring in the new energy. If I turn my back on the past and say, I don't need to do this, I don't need to repeat this, I've learned everything I can about this, then if that energy needs to be moved, there's so many, what is it, 6.5 billion or trillion people on the planet right now. Somebody else can do that. Somebody has to bring in the new energy. Somebody has to be willing to take the risk of not being sure who they are. Take the risk of deciding that joy and gladness and sweetness and whatever, there aren't even enough positive words, if you think about it, to talk about all the variations of bliss and ecstasy there probably are. I have seen people receiving love sometimes in a healing, and their body feels physical pain because of that. So one of the things I ask myself if I'm in physical pain, is that me pushing away the new love energy? Sometimes it is. And just having the awareness expands that and lets me let it go. That's that rainbow consciousness, boy, knowing. But part of what I'm giving you are the handles to use to change those realities.
And another 10 years to assimilate it all. We'll
Well,
see if that's on my timeline.
I don't think you'll take that long.
Okay. Yeah. Time. Yeah. The gift of COVID.
Yeah, you do
A
have
little-
time.
A
I'm
little more
wondering
time.
if how you'd feel about receiving. I'm more than happy to share my notes for the healing classes.
Mm.
Would you want them?
Yeah. I mean, that would be a
Well,
very special and well-received gift. Yeah.
yeah. Why don't you send her the foundation, applied healing?
Okay, send that to me in an email.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then you can read a little bit. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of how-to stuff in there, so
Okay. Yeah.
probably a lot of stuff because 3-heart balancing depends on the open source method. So it's not one person that channels everything. I've got a whole stack of journals that I've kept records of people's bodies present a problem and we create a solution. So, and some of the solutions come from other disciplines
Yeah.
that are incorporated with 3-heart balancing. So we're very open-minded, very expansive.
And it's 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, now I got my wish to talk to you a little bit. That's good.
Thank
Are you free Wednesday?
Yes. At what time, I should say?
8.
8. Okay. Yes.
All right.
I am. Yeah. And you'll send the link.
Clyde will send the link.
Will
Yep.
get us. Yeah. Okay. Great. That sounds
Okay.
wonderful. Well, thanks for this special time together.
Goodbye,
Everybody
Laura, if you're
will
hearing
watch this on YouTube. Yeah.
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 Bye.
Well, take care. Bye.